So, in case my channel name didn't indicate it, I myself was once a film student. Yes, after discovering my love and passion for film and the art of filmmaking in high school, I ventured to college to study it some more. And as per most college film students, my taste in movies can often be described as pretentious and artsy-fartsy, which I will fully embrace because boy do I love me some 3-hour-long Russian dramas. However, even the most self-righteous of film students have their guilty pleasures, and after setting up my Halloween decorations around the house, it got me thinking about my favorite guilty pleasures: slashers. I love slashers. The good ones, the bad ones, the scary ones, the silly ones. Put a creep in a mask and have him murder some unsuspecting civilians, and I am there for it 10 out of 10 times. So I thought I'd take this chilly fall day to recommend some underrated gems of the slasher genre. These films are a little more obscure, especially if you're not a horror buff, as it would be a waste to recommend the go-tos of the genres. Everyone knows your Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, Freddy Kruegers, and Ghostfaces. So I thought I'd offer you guys some alternate films of the slasher subgenre that you can binge this fall. In this video, we'll cover some more unknown entries in the slasher genre with a nice bit of variety between films. Slashers that are corny and fun to ones that are downright bone-chilling. So with that out of the way, let's get started. 1981 was a banner year for any horror fan as we received many classics of the genre, including Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead, which catapulted the cabin in the woods trope, John Landis's horror comedy American Werewolf in London, and Halloween 2, the sequel to the film responsible for the boom of 80s slashers. However, Halloween 2 is not the focus of this slot. No, for this pick I'd rather focus on what I consider to be the best summer camp set slasher. No, not Friday the 13th, a fine choice for any horror binge. No, not even Sleepaway Camp, another great choice. No, for this spot, I'm focusing on the Tony Maylam directed film, The Burning. The Burning is a film I somehow only discovered this past year, and I'm kicking myself for not seeing it sooner. I enjoyed this movie so much, I've seen it twice in the last 2 months. The film stars a young, still with a head of hair Jason Alexander from Seinfeld fame, as well as Holly Hunter and Fisher Stevens, who in this film looks like he weighs 90 pounds soaking wet. The film picks up 5 years after a horrible prank goes wrong that left the camp caretaker Cropsy horribly burnt and disfigured. Like any good slasher, Cropsy returns to the camp with vengeance on his mind and begins axing off campers and counselors left and right. So why watch this film? Well, the movie clocks in at a crisp 90 minutes and leaves no second to waste. The moment Cropsy leaves the hospital, his murderous rage takes over as he immediately begins murdering a prostitute in quite brutal fashion. With its breakneck pace, you never feel like you have a chance to breathe as Cropsy hunts down these innocent campers in a relentless fashion. On top of a stellar pace that makes the film feel like it flies by, the kills in this movie are excellent, as special effects star Tom Savini, known for his work on Friday the 13th Part 1 and 4, as well as George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, brings his magic to the screen yet again, with one scene involving a raft being one of the standout moments of the film and one of the best kill sequences in any slasher ever. Not only are the kills and pacing great, but the host of characters we meet are both memorable and entertaining to watch. They're likable enough to follow, but not so likable as to where when they get brutally killed, it makes you feel really bad. The inclusion of Cropsy's weapon of choice being garden shears is also a unique and frankly awesome addition that makes the movie stand out even more for me. All in all, this is surely one that you should check out if you haven't already, and if you enjoy films like Friday the 13th or Sleepaway Camp, this will be right up your alley. Great pacing, stellar kills, and a great cast of characters make it a must-watch for any horror fan. Released in 1986, directed by Jim Wynorski and starring Kelly Maroney, Tony O'Dell, and Barbara Crampton, Chopping Mall is one of the most fun and entertaining slashers you'll be able to find. For starters, the premise alone is simply amazing. The film follows a few friends who decide to have a little party in one of the stores of a shopping mall once the mall is already closed. However, the young cast of characters are unaware that what awaits them is killer security robots that, due to a lightning strike, have gone completely haywire. As you probably guessed, once the youngsters run into these deathbots, they begin dying in hilariously entertaining fashion, as the security robots are equipped with lasers, flamethrowers, and all the fixings for a good murder. The characters aren't exactly super memorable in this film, but like most slashers, you're really in it for the kills, and this one surely delivers on that basis, as the deaths in this movie are fantastic. The blend of sci-fi and evident fear of technology that existed in the 1980s, mixed with the cliché slasher elements, are a recipe for a hell of a time. This film falls into more of the fun and goofy realm of slashers, as it's hard to take most of this movie seriously. I mean, it's a movie called Chopping Mall about killer robots. It doesn't get too much sillier than that. So if you ever wanted to know what it would look like if the Terminator and Friday the 13th ever had a baby, this movie is probably the closest you're gonna get to that. Ultimately, there's a lot to say about this one. It's just a really fun and entertaining movie that is one you can throw on with a couple of friends, grab a couple beers, and sit back and just enjoy. You don't have to worry about being scared or unsettled, as start to finish, you're just going to be laughing and smiling. Released in 1980 and directed by William Lustig, as well as starring Joe Spinell, who also developed the story, Maniac is one of the most unsettling and uncomfortable slashers you're bound to come across. The movie follows a character named Frank Zito, a landlord who was abused as a child by his mother, who was a prostitute, resulting in Frank becoming a deranged serial killer who murders young women, scalping them and attaching the scalps to mannequins. Already a fucked up premise for a film, but it's the delivery and presentation that really solidify Maniac as one of the more unsettling slashers. Whereas the heavy breathing in a film like Halloween is creepy in its own right, the way that Frank breathes in this movie takes it to a whole other level, where it's less creepy and more so unnerving. On top of that, this film trades in fun and entertaining kills for death scenes that are downright bone-chilling in both presentation and conception. One scene in particular involving a shotgun is simultaneously one of the best kills in any slasher movie ever, and also one of the most uncomfortable and unnerved I felt in any scene in any film. The second time being mentioned in this video, but Tom Savini serves as the head of special effects as well as making an appearance in the film himself. However, again, the kills in this film feel more authentic and unnerving than they do in most other slashers. A lot of this film feels dirty and dingy, as if you can see the dirt seeping through the screen and the disgusting scent of the scenes plaguing and invading your airspace as you watch, in a way that I haven't seen in any other film other than the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Joe Spinell does a marvelous job as Frank Zito, to the point where if I met Joe in real life, I'd probably be hesitant to go near him. Every scene, he just feels like he could snap and go into a fit of murderous rage, and there's an inherent dark and deranged aura that is always present when he's on screen. If you find slashers to be fun and charming, I recommend checking this one out, because it definitely feels like one of the more realistic and authentic portrayals of what a serial killer looks, feels, and acts like. Maniac is surely going to unnerve, unsettle, and downright torment you until the credits begin rolling. Happy Birthday to Me was released in 1981 and directed by J. Lee Thompson. The film follows Virginia, played by Melissa Sue Anderson, who has recently become a part of the cool kids club in school known as the Top 10, a group of the wealthiest and most privileged students. Things begin to go awry as, like any typical slasher, the students begin getting killed off one by one in increasingly brutal fashion. As the film progresses, Virginia's tragic backstory is explored upon as the mystery surrounding who the killer is plagues the group of rich students, the film operating not only as a slasher but sort of a murder mystery as well. The mystery elements for sure work in the film, as you yourself try putting the pieces together along with the characters and trying to figure out what's happening. I will admit, for a majority of this film, I felt a tad bit underwhelmed, as the kills are serviceable enough and the mystery is compelling in its own right, with sparse information about Virginia being sprinkled throughout the film. However, where the film really wins me over, and where it'll win you over too, is the climax. The last 10 to 15 minutes of the film are truly fantastic and make for one of the most memorable and shocking finales to any slasher. Honestly, if not for the ending, I probably would not have included this as a suggestion, but it's one of those climaxes that makes the rest of the film not only worth sitting through, but genuinely enhances it. Maybe the least interesting film in this list for a majority of its runtime, however, I do think that once you reach the exhilarating and haunting final few minutes, you'll be glad that you sat down to watch this little gem of 80s horror cinema. It's also a fun one to show your friends, as you can see their reaction to the ending. For the final entry on this list, I figured we'd bring it back to a more fun and goofy selection, and so my final recommendation is the 1987 sequel, Slumber Party Massacre 2. I mean, the title alone should key you in on how utterly silly and cartoonish this movie is. Slumber Party Massacre 2 serves as a loose sequel to its 1982 predecessor, but honestly, you don't really need to watch the original, as not much carries over. Now, this isn't exactly a good movie per se. The kills are fine, the pacing is solid, and the direction is serviceable. However, where the film truly shines is in its villain. The killer in this 80s slasher is a supernatural killer with a power drill guitar. Yep, you heard it right, a power drill guitar. And if you're picturing an electric guitar with a large power drill attached to the end, you'd be exactly right. See, whereas the original Slumber Party Massacre operates as a standard by-the-numbers slasher with a power drill-wielding psychopath, the sequel opts to take a more dark comedy route that elevates it to so bad it's good territory. I mean, this film isn't as much concerned with scaring you as it is making sure you have a damn good time. Every scene the guitar power drill wielding killer shows up fills me with so much joy you have no idea. The actor is clearly having a blast with the role, and the utter ridiculousness of it all just adds to the overall entertainment factor. There's a scene in this film during what should be a scary chase sequence where what would be the spawn of Elvis and Michael Myers just flat out starts dancing and rocking out.
I love to jam it to the floor, let me twice pipes roll.
Just at a random point, the filmmakers just decide to have a dance number. It's utterly hilarious, and that scene alone is worth throwing this film on. On top of that, before the shit even hits the fan, the group of teen girls have one of the most over-the-top and cliched slumber party sequences you will ever witness. Like, I've never been to a girl's sleepover, but I just cannot imagine a world in which they actually play out like this. The film is pure slasher comedy gold, and another one similar to Chopping Mall that would be an excellent choice to throw on for a group of people, preferably intoxicated ones, and you're sure to have an absolute blast. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm having such a good time making all these horror related videos as it is my favorite genre of film. I consider myself a huge horror buff, so I've been having a great time with these. Let me know what you guys thought of this video, and I'd love to hear what you guys consider to be underrated slashers, or hell, just let me know what scary movies you've been binging this October. As always, if you liked the video, make sure to click the like button, subscribe to me if you want to hear more from me, and click the little bell notification button so you get notified when I post new videos. Be sure to check out my horror movie podcast, Scared Speechless, as well. New episodes every Monday. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description down below. And of course, I will see you guys on the next video.